Something unusual is unfolding inside Europe's power architecture. After decades of relying heavily on the United States for protection and industrial strength, the continent is now quietly mobilizing a €150 billion defense transformation designed to secure the next decade. Dozens of projects, from ammunition production to advanced radar systems, are being unified under a single mechanism known as SAFE, the Security Action for Europe Initiative. And in a move that surprised even seasoned diplomats, one non-EU country was invited into its core. Not the United Kingdom, not Japan. It was Canada, welcomed at the precise moment when trust has become the world's most valuable strategic currency. Welcome to Geocapitalist, the channel where we examine geopolitical transformations that go far beyond the headlines. Here we decode how nations build wealth, resilience, and long-term strategic influence in a rapidly shifting world. In today's video, we uncover how the European Union's €150 billion Pact has reshaped Canada's strategic future. A deep analysis of why the European Union opened the doors of its most significant defense initiative to Canada, how this move strengthens the Northern Industrial Corridor, and what it reveals about the future balance of power across the transatlantic space. If you're new here, consider subscribing so you never miss how Canada's global position is quietly evolving through alliances, industry, and long-term strategy. And as always, the visuals in this video are simulations used for educational and analytical purposes only. Now let's continue. The European Union €150 billion defense initiative, known as SAFE, the Security Action for Europe mechanism, has become the continent's most ambitious attempt to rebuild its deterrence and industrial capacity since the end of the Cold War. While designed primarily for EU members, SAFE contains a unique pathway that allows select, trusted partners to participate in joint procurement, industrial cooperation, and long-term defense financing. To the quiet surprise of many observers, the first country granted access was Canada. Far from being symbolic, this move reflects a deeper political and strategic logic taking hold in Brussels. For Europe, the world has entered a decade of uncertainty marked by pressure on supply chains, evolving military threats, and fluctuating reliability in transatlantic politics. Within this environment, Canada offers something rare: a technologically advanced, politically stable G7 partner with long-standing credibility inside NATO, deep ties to Nordic states, and a reputation for alignment with European defense standards. By joining SAFE, Canada becomes integrated into the planning and financing cycles behind Europe's next-generation procurement programs, from ammunition and sensors to air defense systems and advanced surveillance platforms. At the same time, Canadian aerospace, cyber, and space companies gain access to a market where demand is accelerating faster than domestic European industry can supply. This opening marks the start of a new strategic bridge, one that connects Europe's vast defense modernization effort with Canada's northern expertise and industrial depth. Europe's decision to include Canada in SAFE did not emerge from diplomatic coincidence. It was driven by structural needs. The European defense market is undergoing a rapid expansion triggered by the war in Ukraine, rising security risks, and a renewed determination to strengthen Europe's capacity to act independently when necessary. But even with increased budgets, Europe faces a bottleneck. Its defense manufacturers cannot meet the continent's urgent demand for ammunition, drones, radar systems, and air defense equipment. This shortage makes external, trusted partners essential. Canada fits that profile precisely. As a founding NATO ally, it already operates under shared standards and contributes to transatlantic command structures. Its defense exports, from simulation systems to avionics and cyber platforms, complement European capabilities without competing with them. Canada also brings something Europe values increasingly: proximity and alignment with the Nordic industrial base. Sweden and Finland, now fully anchored within NATO's northern architecture, see Canada as a counterpart with similar Arctic priorities, similar technologies, and similar strategic culture. By partnering with Canada, Europe strengthens a supply chain that spans both sides of the Atlantic while reducing overdependence on any single country. Canada's inclusion therefore reflects trust, compatibility, and a shared vision of long-term stability, signaling that the next era of European defense cooperation extends beyond the EU's formal borders. Canada's entry into SAFE becomes even more significant when viewed through its deepening ties with the Nordic region. Sweden's defense industry, anchored by Saab, has become one of Europe's most important suppliers of cold-weather aviation, surveillance, and command and control technology. Platforms like the Gripen E fighter and the GlobalEye airborne early warning system are specifically engineered for harsh northern conditions, short runways, and rapid deployment, traits that make them highly relevant for Canada's Arctic environment. Collaboration between Saab and Canadian firms has intensified in recent years, particularly in simulation, pilot training, and systems integration. CAE, based in Montreal, now plays a central role in developing advanced training suites for Saab's aircraft, including GlobalEye, creating a transatlantic technology link that Europe sees as both credible and strategically valuable. By incorporating Canada into SAFE, European countries that procure Swedish systems gain access not only to Swedish engineering, but also to Canadian training infrastructure, aerospace expertise, and potential production partnerships. In parallel, Canada benefits from an expanded role within a Nordic-European network focused on Arctic security, air power integration, and intelligent surveillance platforms. This triangulation between Canada, Sweden, and the broader Nordic region strengthens the industrial backbone behind Europe's modernization efforts and positions Canada as an indispensable partner in both Arctic and transatlantic capability development. Europe's decision-making around SAFE has generated considerable attention, particularly regarding why Canada was invited while the United Kingdom, historically one of Europe's strongest defense partners, did not secure a place. The explanation is not rooted in rivalry or exclusion, but in differing financial and strategic approaches. SAFE requires substantial long-term commitments to joint procurement, shared industrial programs, and coordinated investment cycles. For Brussels, the mechanism only works if participants contribute predictable funding and integrate their procurement plans into a collective framework. Negotiations with London explored precisely that, but both sides ultimately concluded that the financial terms and industrial requirements did not align with the UK's current defense strategy or budgetary posture. The door was never closed. The conditions simply weren't mutually beneficial at the time. Canada, by contrast, entered SAFE through a tailored cooperation model grounded in NATO standards, Arctic-oriented capabilities, and industrial complementarities with Nordic and continental suppliers. Europe views Canada not as a replacement for the UK, but as an additional stabilizing partner whose strategic outlook and technological strengths reinforce the continent's emerging defense architecture. This calm, measured alignment reflects the broader shift toward a more interconnected yet flexible transatlantic security landscape. For Canada, joining SAFE is far more than symbolic diplomacy. It is an entry point into one of the world's fastest-growing defense ecosystems. At a practical level, it gives Canadian companies access to large-scale European procurement programs financed through low-interest, long-term mechanisms that individual states could not secure on their own. As Europe races to rebuild its ammunition stockpiles, expand air defense capacities, modernize surveillance networks, and invest in next-generation command systems, Canadian firms stand to benefit from contracts that would otherwise remain closed to non-EU suppliers. This includes simulation technologies from CAE, space-based intelligence platforms from MDA and North Star, and secure communications or avionics components produced across Canada's growing aerospace corridor. More importantly, SAFE diversifies Canada's defense partnerships in a period of global volatility. By relying less on a single supplier or market, Ottawa gains strategic resilience and a broader array of technologies suited for Arctic conditions, areas where European and Nordic innovation has become world-leading. Participation in joint development programs also accelerates Canada's own modernization timeline, giving it earlier access to capabilities that align with NORAD renewal and Northern surveillance priorities. In this sense, SAFE elevates Canada from customer to co-architect within the next phase of Western defense cooperation. For Europe, Canada's participation in SAFE strengthens the continent's ability to modernize at a pace that its industrial base alone cannot sustain. Demand for ammunition, drones, radar systems, missile defense components, and Arctic-ready platforms now exceeds European manufacturing capacity, creating bottlenecks at the very moment when European governments are increasing defense budgets at historic levels. Canada helps relieve these constraints by adding a stable, NATO-aligned industrial partner capable of absorbing contracts, supporting production surges, and integrating into shared supply chains without introducing strategic risk. Its aerospace and space sectors complement European technologies, providing simulation, avionics, training, and orbital surveillance capabilities that EU members increasingly rely on for early warning and situational awareness. Europe also gains political depth. SAFE's credibility grows when it includes trusted partners who reinforce the continent's long-term security strategy. Canada brings diplomatic steadiness, Arctic expertise, and transatlantic alignment that supports Europe's goal of building a more autonomous, but not isolated, defense architecture. By collaborating with a G7 partner embedded in NATO, the EU strengthens its resilience without undermining the alliance. Canada's entry therefore enhances Europe's industrial capacity, accelerates its modernization timetable, and broadens the cooperative framework, underpinning the continent's security at a moment of unprecedented geopolitical pressure. Canada's entry into SAFE reshapes its global posture in ways that extend far beyond procurement. It positions the country as a central connector between Europe's rearmament cycle, NATO's evolving northern strategy, and North America's Arctic modernization. For decades, Canada's defense relationships were overwhelmingly anchored to a single supplier ecosystem, limiting diversification and constraining access to emerging technologies across Europe. SAFE breaks that pattern. It grants Canada early involvement in joint development programs, industrial roadmaps, and coordinated planning processes that influence what Europe builds and who builds it. This gives Canada a voice inside the decision-making structure guiding Europe's next-generation capabilities, from air defense layers and surveillance constellations to ground systems and cyber resilience frameworks. Strategically, the alignment strengthens Canada's Arctic posture. Europe's northern states, Sweden, Finland, Norway, and Denmark, share similar environmental challenges, and their technologies are designed for extreme cold, limited infrastructure, and long-distance monitoring. In economic terms, the shift diversifies Canada's export landscape and expands opportunities in sectors where Canadian firms already excel. In geopolitical terms, it elevates Canada as a reliable, stabilizing partner at the center of the transatlantic defense architecture taking shape for the next decade. A new balance is emerging, one in which North America and Europe are no longer connected only through traditional alliances, but through industrial depth, shared Arctic priorities, and synchronized modernization cycles. Canada's role in this transformation is distinct. It operates at the crossroads of NATO's northern strategy, Europe's defense renewal, and the Nordic technological ecosystem that is rapidly defining the future of aerospace, surveillance, and cold weather operations. The result is a partnership built on complementarity rather than scale, one where each contribution reinforces resilience across the entire transatlantic space. This alignment also reflects the broader shift toward distributed security responsibilities. Europe is strengthening its autonomy, Canada is diversifying its industrial ties, and the northern states are integrating air, maritime, and surveillance capabilities into a single strategic arc. SAFE becomes the financial engine behind this evolution, while Canada becomes one of its most trusted external architects. In the years ahead, this cooperative framework is likely to shape not only procurement, but also doctrine, technology development, and Arctic governance. It is, in essence, the quiet construction of a new security era built on precision, partnership, and long-term stability. If you found value in today's analysis, I recommend watching this video next. Like, share, and subscribe to Geocapitalist, where we examine the forces that shape national power, economic influence, and long-term security. And now, a question worth reflecting on. Does Canada's entry into Europe's 150 billion euros defense initiative signal the beginning of a new transatlantic era, one defined not by scale, but by innovation, shared responsibility, and quiet strategic alignment? Your perspective helps shape the conversation ahead. Thank you for watching, and remember, in geopolitics, the North never moves loudly, but its shifts redefine everything around it. I'll see you in the next one.